Welcome back to another episode of Projecting Grandeur. I'm your host, Ron Dichter. Thank you so much for tuning in. Would like to take just a brief moment and say thank you to all of you out there that have been watching. I really appreciate the support, and I love all the comments and the likes as well. And for those of you that have been sharing it to help spread the word, much appreciated, and gratitude, because that's the only way people can find out about this, is that you tell them about it. So anytime you share it with somebody that you think might benefit from what we're talking about here, I very much appreciate it, and hopefully they do as well. Today I want to talk about a concept that is by no means new, and certainly not something that I came up with. I believe it was actually Zig Ziglar, one of the legendary sales trainers of the last 50 years, but it's the concept of facts tell and stories sell. And what does this mean? You know, when you hear facts tell and stories sell, basically what you're saying is that the facts are the facts of what it is you're trying to sell, whether it be a product, whether it be a service, whether it be, some sort of offering. The facts are all of the details. And while those are important, they aren't necessarily the reasons that most people buy. Most people buy because they want to evoke some sort of emotion, feeling, or resolve in what they're trying to do, and the thing that they're buying is ultimately going to give them that story of success. And this can take on a whole lot of different forms. And so if you just think about this in practical application, let's say you sell high-end sports cars. There's a lot of facts about the high-end sports cars that are important, like how many horsepower it is, what the torque is, and all these other nuances. But at the end of the day, the person buying that is really buying an emotion. And maybe that emotion is going fast. Maybe that emotion is being able to, handle tight turns and, handle the G-forces. Maybe it's just simply an emotion that they want to have, by getting behind the wheel. Or maybe it's something that others perceive them, but that story about the end result of what they get from that sports car is going to be far more compelling than telling them about the torque and the horsepower. Those are all helpful proof points, but they're not necessarily the stories behind it. Or, let's say you're trying to sell someone a pair of skis, if you're a skier out there, which I am, and you're telling them about the camber and, what the center cut and the toe cut and how much, bevel there is and all these little things. Like, none of that means anything if you don't understand the scientific, approach of ski buying. But if you tell someone, hey, look, when you turn into this, or when you lay into this turn, the ski is going to do the work for you because, of, whatever fact, you're trying to say. But it's that story of, like, when you get into that turn and you carve, like, the ski does the work for you, and so it becomes effortless as you try to make that turn. And then you start telling a story, about the ski and what it's going to make you experience and feel. And so my point behind this is facts tell, stories sell. So when you think about what industry you're in, what business you're starting, whatever it is that you're trying to convince the world that your product, service, or offering is the thing they should do, it all comes down to the story. I remember a movie not too long ago, actually probably a lot of you have seen it, called Wolf of Wall Street, and Jordan Belfort at the end of the movie is training in an auditorium, and he hands a pen to the audience member, and he says, "Sell me the pen." And the first person starts telling him about the fact that you can write upside down and that the ink lasts a long time and all these things. And obviously Jordan says no, and then goes to the next person and says, "Sell me the pen." And the person's talking about all of the scientific components of the pen that make it unique and its lifetime warranty. And he kept doing this time and time again to each different person, until finally he said, "No, sell me the pen." And then he starts talking to somebody and says, "This pen, imagine you're about to close your big deal, and imagine you've got this thing you've been working on for the last few weeks, and this big client's about to sign this deal, and this pen represents that paycheck that you're going to get. By signing and handing this pen to your potential client, when they take this pen and they put their autograph on this piece of paper, the accomplishment that you have." And it's all about the story that this reliable pen is going to give you, because you're putting it in the hands of the person, and it creates this emotion about, wow, this pen is going to change, my trajectory, my business, my, commission, and it's really compelling. Again, nothing about the facts. And so obviously this applies broadly to any business, any industry that you might be in. It's just the whole concept that you have to tell people about what they're going to get when they buy this thing from you, this product, this service, this offering. What is the outcome that they are going to receive from this purchase? And that becomes really compelling. That becomes why people ultimately want to do business with you, is because of the stories that you're saying. So I'm just leave you with this thought today, and that's really important, is that facts tell, stories sell. So when you think about what you're trying to do, find the stories, whether it be in actual customers that have had a successful outcome using whatever it is you're selling, or whether it is you're a startup business and you haven't sold to any clients yet, but what you hope your clients to get. Having those stories are going to be way more compelling and to give you a better chance of making that sale. So remember, facts tell, stories sell. Have a good day. Please don't forget, like, share, comment, all that great stuff. We can't get the word out if we don't share. Have a great day.